2023, Lance, welcome. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow with Lance Sexton. It's been a while, Lance.
Bob, I was lost for 2 or 3 weeks. I was looking for the email invite to log on, and I didn't know what to do with myself.
Well, we have a lot of news. We're going to jump right in. We're going to start with comment periods, and this is what's been holding up the SOP. There's 2 issues. One is, and by the way, if you want to comment, you can comment on this. You got to do it by today. I don't know if there's a cutoff or what time it is. I know there's a cutoff. I just know what the time is. But this was brought up before we had a Republican Congress. Well, I guess we don't have a Republican Congress yet. Little snarky comment. But when that's all resolved, this is going to be brought up, Lance. And what do you think about all that?
Well, I highly encourage everyone. I mean, obviously, I have a dog in the hunt. I work for an SBLC. Most existing SBLCs don't want to see new SBLCs, and it's not just from a perspective of how it impacts our company, but my primary thought behind not adding additional SBLCs, they're regulated by SBA. And currently, SBA does not, this is just my opinion, Bob, have the capacity to regulate additional SBLCs. And there was some discussion about limiting the number of new SBLCs, but it's one of those things that your small business lending companies they're not regulated by FDIC, OCC. They're regulated by the SBA, and SBA does the reviews and all the regulatory efforts. And I just think until they have adequate staffing, it's not SBA's fault, Bob. SBA needs some more money for more staffing, and if they had adequate staffing, maybe it is an okay idea. But right now, I don't think so. And that's just my opinion. The main thing I want to share, Bob, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, go in and provide your comments and your input. Today is the final day. It's important for them to hear from the participant banking community.
That's a great advice and great thought. I tend to be I'm probably on the side of the issue on the new Lance. I think anything that we can do to expand mission-based lending, I'm all for. Especially, I would rather SBA focus on expanding those lenders as opposed to putting in mandates for existing lenders that so much of your portfolio has to be X or we're going to cap it or whatever. So I'd like the direction that we're going with this, and we're not imposing the standards on existing lenders. But I agree with you. It's got to be done right. Unfortunately, there's a perception that this is tied in with what happened with PPP, and they're two completely different issues, but they're being tied together in terms of oversight of can SBA handle it. I believe they can. There's a lot of smart people there. They just need resources and a plan of action.
Well, and again, Bob, the great encouragement, guys, these are going to end up either not in the SOP or in the SOP, and your comments will have a lot to do with what happens.
But I would take a step back in all of these proposals that come down, think about it, and think about what your institution is doing for mission-based financing. It could be done well, it could be done you could get higher prices, so you can price the risk appropriately. And just take a look at that. And I'm glad that SBA is not mandating it. And I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the second row. This one's interesting, Lance. And this one, the cutoff is there. And this is what's truly holding up the SBA. Lance, give us a quick little recap of what's happening.
The affiliation rules have always been complex. banks. And just to summarize, the proposal in the new SOP is to simplify the affiliation rules to make them more participant lender friendly. Sometimes it's hard for you to make a determination if somebody is an affiliate or not. So, they're proposing to revamp and simplify the affiliation rules. Again, my suggestion, go in and read it and then provide your comments. Oh, is the December 27th date correct?
Yeah. The date is gone.
So I'm going to recommend that you don't submit.
There you go.
comments.
See, who said we can't pivot on a dime? No, but this one has to do with loan authorization. There's a lot of other stuff that was in there. So we're waiting for this to come, digest all that, and then the new SOPs will come out. And I'm glad they're waiting, because it's nicer when it's all together.
Well, one of the things that this is doing, they're proposing to put more and more of the lending criteria into what's called prudent lending standards, Bob. They're wanting participant banks to make more decisions in terms of what a proper SBA loan is. So it is a simplification. Can't wait to see what the new SOP tells us.
Yeah, and I like the way they're going with that. Again, the lender has the final say on what to do. It's not SBA's box, it's your box, and you can choose to lend or not.
Yep.
And, they provide guidelines, but just because you can check off of the boxes with SBA doesn't mean that you should do the transaction. We were called into the principal's office. We came out a little bit early on who the House chair was going to be. We said it was going to be Lukenmeyer, but it appears, obviously everything's in flux until the Republicans solve who their leader is going to be. And obviously with that will impact who the chair will be. I don't get too excited by, we don't try to talk politics. This too will pass. It'll be solved.
Oh yeah.
They want their new offices, so it's politics as usual. It's a sausage. It's just
Bob, on the news this morning, the national news had a report. The lady who says a new chair has not been elected, and they showed her saying it 3 times, and then they showed a screen with her up there multiple times, multiple pictures of her saying that at the same time, until they added up to all the votes that did not work.
That's a great question, Gay, and that there is the website. You can go into that. If I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and every comment that you make is automatically put up on the website, so you can see all the comments, who the commenters are, and there's a link on that. We'll include the link. Joseph, how are we going to include that? We'll send it out to everyone. If you could do it real fast.
Yeah, I've included the PDF for the comments, but we'll include the updated comments.
And also on Monday we'll bring that up as well. So great, yeah, that's a great great catch on that. Well, very good. Well, with that, let's bring. Just one other thing. Also, this is not. We've gone through this in the past, and I always love the comment about Congress and congressmen back in the 1850s when this happened again. They said the only congressman that didn't carry a gun carried 2. So, and that was true. Okay, Delaney, what are our fraudsters up to these days? And Delaney's, unfortunately, she's got what you all know, what's been going around. Delaney, it's good to see you looking better and also
not quite seeing me, but
I know we're not going to see you, but I can tell you, you sound and look a whole lot better than you did last week. So.
Yes, she does.
Thank you.
Tell us what's going on in this. This is an interesting story, Lance. Delaney set it up for us.
It is. We've been tracking this case since 2021. It's the first NBC bank fraud that cost the FDIC almost $1 billion due to the bank executives' unsound lending practices. this go around, we've had a few of the higher ups go ahead and plead guilty, but this time we have a borrower pleading guilty. He made a lot of misrepresentations and material omissions to get these loans. For example, forged statements from banks. He also fabricated accounts receivable so he could borrow more money, listing companies that he either never worked with or hasn't worked with in years. And I think a big key with this case is that his loan officer repeatedly alerted both the president and the chief credit officer about these fraudulent actions. And even despite this, they continued approving and facilitating loans for this borrower, in addition to actually contributing some misrepresentations and omissions. And I do have to say, for at least one of these people, I believe it's the president, I do need to say allegedly. The chief credit officer has pled guilty, though.
Yeah, two have pled guilty to this fraud. And what's interesting about this, Lance, is the Department of Justice quotes. They're really zeroing on this loan officer and say, hey, this person was doing their job. They're raising the red flags. They're saying this person is living beyond their means. They're questioning the validity of the financial information provided, and higher-ups ignored them.
Oh, absolutely. Bob, in my past, I did a ton of residential development lending, and there was an old adage that I was told by a lender who had been around for a long time. He said, hey, Lance, when you have a home builder who suddenly buys an airplane, that is a red flag. And I thought that was, what are you talking about? So I have a builder who I was lending money for home construction and resale. And all of a sudden he comes in and says, I want to buy a plane. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, that's when I raised the red flag and said no more. And it sounds like that's the kind of case here. The loan officer was aware that the borrower was living beyond his means. Not only that, probably reviewed the accounts receivable aging and identified companies that he's not actually doing business with, and he raised a red flag and tried to stop it.
Several times, yeah.
Good for that loan officer.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway on this is if you're going to be signing stuff that you know is wrong, the Department of Justice was looking at all the officers of the bank, and they said, indicted. Okay, this person tried to do the right thing. So it's a not a warning. It's a, what would you call it? A guidance? Is that a
Well, I mean, anytime you suspect fraud in a lending relationship or institution, it's a best practice to raise your hands and say, hey, there's a problem here. We need to stop. Now, if the executives higher up the food chain choose to continue, that's on them.
That's a tough position. But look what happened with the Carriegi crew. They're the number twos, and they were all indicted, and they got significant jail time. Yeah. So, and I know that was a defense by the bank, the woman banker in Texas, and her defense is, well, I was intimidated. Well, you were the president of the bank. She was intimidated by her board, and that defense didn't fly. So, you're all professionals. Understand what you're doing. I'll leave it, and don't be intimidated. That's, I guess, to say it. Delaney, what did the Edwards father and son team do?
So Evan Edwards and Joshua Edwards ran a ministry that provided religious services, and very early on in the pandemic, they applied for a PPP loan. They allegedly included fake IRS tax return forms, claimed that the ministry employed almost 500 people and had monthly payroll expenses of more than $2.7 million, and ultimately got $8.4 million back. So they put about $1 million into a nice $3.7 million home in an upscale Orlando, Florida neighborhood close to Walt Disney World, and put the rest of the $7.5 million into a bank account. Now, when investigators went into review, they went to the office addresses and found that the ministry was unoccupied. They went to home addresses, found that those were empty as well, and ended up finding them in a car being pulled over for speeding with two suitcases, laptops, tablets, shredded documents, and also
Why would you
other... Wait, I'm sorry?
if you're going to shred documents, why are you going to take them with you? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, I was wondering the same thing. They also had media reports of SBA fraud cases involving religious organizations and other media articles. So I'm not sure why they would have brought that with them either. But
All right, I have two questions. What type of car?
I don't think they got a car.
Oh, I
they
thought
did
you
not
said
get a
pulled
car.
over.
They did escape in a car.
Okay, but it was obviously wasn't
Bob,
fast.
they bought a really beautiful. I actually looked at this particular case. They bought a beautiful home in a Disneyland resort, wasn't it, Delaney? Right on the Disney, close to the Disney property.
I believe so. It was either on it or right around it.
Oh, very nice. That is nice. That is nice. All right. Now I'm really going down a deep rabbit hole. I know what Aslan is. Lance or Delaney, do you know what that is?
I do not.
We should
The
do
name sounds familiar, but I do not.
It's the lion in Chronicles of Narnia by
Oh.
C.S. Lewis.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know.
Nope. All right. I got that one. I wonder how many other people knew that. Okay. Let's move on to, I think you had one more story, Delaney.
I hate to let you down, but I do not have another story.
All right.
My
Well,
sincere apologies.
that's fine. But I hopefully that we as in taxpayers recovered a significant portion of this money. And again, I'm glad they're going after these people. I'm glad they're doing it immediately and not waiting 8-9 years as they did after TARP. And
Yep.
That's very good. Lance, real quick, we got 1 minute. Give me 2 takeaways from your webinar on Wednesday.
Well, one of the takeaways, Bob, was loan file review is going to be incredibly important during 2023. And I've always used a real simple 2-page risk-based review file format, but I ramped it up this time in discussion of loan file review and had added a lot of depth into the information that you need to be reviewing in your files. 2 reasons loan file review is going to be important. One, I wished I could see everybody and get everybody to raise their hands, but interest rates right now, Bob, are high, but not in retrospect, Bob, to when you and I first started our career and loan rates were 18 to 21%. But the problem with interest rates is the rate at which they've risen. The rates rose more than any 1-year period in my lifetime, and I'm an old man. So that is going to cause stress on your borrowers. The time to review the file is not when the borrower's in trouble, but the time to review it is now and make sure everything's in place to protect your SBA guarantee. The second thing,
Let me interject real quick. And the thing to remember is rates didn't rise 4%. They rose 100%. Now the base may have gone up 3 or 4%, but the interest expense was 100% increase from year over year. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. So many of your borrowers are experiencing payments that are almost double what they were in January.
Right.
So any loan that we underwrote with SBA's 1.15 debt coverage ratio, Bob, is underwater right now. So it's an important time to review your files, make sure all your documentation is there, and protect your SBA guarantee. The other thing we talked about were workout plans and guarantee purchase, just reminding people, participant bankers, of what's necessary to use a workout plan with the borrower, because I think it's going to be very popular this year, and also what you need to think about when preparing for a guarantee purchase.
I cut you off. And the second item real quick.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about. We talked about guarantee purchase and workouts, and just good information. I think if you were not able to participate, I'm sure you can get with Joe and Bob and get them to, if I don't know what it costs, but they can probably send you a video recording of what we did, or we could redo it. But
We can read Absolutely. Yeah.
Very,
Hey,
very important things to think about this year. Bob.
Absolutely. Lance, good to see you. Happy New Year. Thank you all for joining us. We've got a record crowd. Thank you. We appreciate it. We will be on Monday. Hopefully we'll have some more news. Hopefully we'll have some more announcements. Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us today for today's episode. If you like today's content, hit that subscribe button to subscribe to our channel and click that bell icon to get notified about our latest videos. Thank you again for joining us today and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Catch you next time.